you like my new office here? It's pretty cool. Welcome back. Welcome back to David's Garage. Today we're talking about sunroof seals, and as you can see, I am in desperate need of one. The old one is actually non-existent. There's a small strip left on the sunroof panel. Otherwise, there is nothing, and it was leaking pretty good. So it's time for a new one. So this tutorial should work for any 2002 Z9s, the Porsches are the same, maybe even older Mercedes, any of the older cars with the Goldie style sunroof. So first things first, you want to roll back the sunroof just a little bit and then get a plastic prying tool in between the metal panel and the headliner panel. And there's basically 5 or 6 little clips that you can pop out. Here's what they look like. If you have a little pinch tool, that would work as well. And then once the clips are popped off, that inner panel you can pull down and then slide back. And that will give you access to the rest of the hardware that needs to be removed to take the panel itself out. So then just roll the sunroof forward and start with these 2 screws. There's 2 screws on either side, and you want to be careful not to turn the knurled nuts in behind. These are for adjustment. If your sunroof is perfectly adjusted, then don't touch these. If not, we'll get to it later in this video on how to adjust it. But yeah, take these screws out and then pull the little slider out. Then there are 2 7mm bolts at the back of the sunroof, and remove those and remove the little cover plate, and you can just pull down the spring and turn it aside basically, and then that is basically it. The sunroof panel is ready to be removed. You can do this with one person. I open up one door and basically put one hand underneath, one hand over top, and kind of be super careful to take it out. Otherwise, if you have a second person, not a bad idea. And yeah, get a table or something, take the sunroof out and put it aside. So what I do is obviously you remove any leftovers of the seal. I mean look at that. That's the old one and that is the new one. It's a major improvement. Sometimes I get a kick out of these things. But yeah, remove any residue, clean it up. What I do is I put a little bit of fairly non-abrasive tape. You don't want to be peeling off any paint or anything. Just put some Scotch tape, whatever, over top, and I do like half the radius of the corner. And you'll see later, this is basically just for the glue so it doesn't get on the sunroof. And then also, what I do next is I sand the contact surface where the seal goes on. This is just to provide better adhesion for the glue, so your sunroof seal is not gonna get torn off. And yeah, just sand it. I do use 400 grit, just a tiny bit. You want to go over it very lightly. You don't want to sand down to the metal because obviously water is going to get in there and then that can cause rust. So just be careful to sand just a little bit. Also, if there is any bare metal spots, you definitely want to touch that up with some primer or whatever to make sure that's protected. So yeah, sand that down, get it cleaned up, and then what I use is this 3M weather adhesive. The viscosity is not the greatest, it's kind of gooey stuff, but it actually holds really well. I did this on my E9, and yeah, my whole trip to California, I had the sunroof open every day, multiple times, and yeah, it was fine. So, and like even, I've pulled on the sunroof now. I'm editing this after the fact, so I've already done all the work. But yeah, I've actually like tugged on the seal and it's on there really well, so that's kind of what you want to do. And there's a P shape. Some of the new seals have a seam, and you actually want to put that seam on the outside, because if you put it on the contact surface, it'll kind of fold over and it'll get a little loose and it might rip apart. So you want whatever is the solid area of the seal. Mine was actually basically one piece, and you want that glued to the panel. So yeah, the small seal goes here. These are the part numbers for the seals, by the way. I guess I'll put a link in the description. You need one longer seal and that gets glued to the roof, and one shorter seal which gets glued to the sunroof panel. So just, yeah, put a little bit of glue. Don't be too generous with it, but you definitely want it to be totally covered. You don't want any gaps. And then kind of the tricky part is to line up the seal. Now I actually lined it up before with the tape, kind of made it so it's in the middle, and then marked where the start of the new seal is going to go in, just on the tape with a Sharpie. And then yeah, start from there and work your way around. You can put the glue down and like wait a little bit and it'll get tacky. Then the glue gets tacky in like 20 seconds, it doesn't take long. But the seal, yeah, I use like a toothpick, and you definitely want some glue remover or something in case you do get glue on the panel or on your fingers or anything. And then just glue it on, kind of just go like inch at a time, just with your finger to line it up with the top of the sunroof, and just go along. And it's fairly easy once you get going, it's not too bad. And then the edges you'll see have to go down. So you actually want to do this so it doesn't bind with the seal on the roof. And that's kind of how the original one was, as you can see here. Then let that dry, put some magnets on it to hold it in place. Now it is time to do the roof, and it's basically the exact same process. It's a little more difficult because there's an aluminum strip in it, and depends on how your seal was shipped or whatever, sometimes that's damaged, and you want to straighten that out before putting it on the car. It just makes it so much easier. So yeah, straighten out the seal as much as you can. Do the same process, tape around the sunroof opening, and then yeah, kind of the half radius. Sand it down, clean it up, and then apply the glue. I kind of did mine in a few different sections, so I did like the left-hand side, then the middle, and then the right-hand side. Just need 3 different steps. And when you glue it in, you kind of want to be a few inches of the seal will be kind of hidden down in there, and just leave that for now. Don't worry about that yet. Just make sure that your sunroof seal is lining up and it's going along the roof line well. And same thing, the P shape, line it up so your flat side is of course against the metal roof. And yeah, just go along, get some magnets, hold it in place. The glue doesn't take too long to dry. I went over it several times with my fingernails and like really trying to press it in there, and I think it turned out great. You definitely want it straight, and you do have a little bit of leeway, I guess, when the glue's kind of drying to like move it a little bit, but not tons. And don't worry if you get even a little bit of glue on the top, you can clean it up later on, just with some brake clean or glue remover, works good. But yeah, go across the whole way, and then of course your little ears, the few inches that I was saying in the beginning to leave, you want to dab a bit of glue on there and press it up in the sunroof cavity. So it's kind of hidden, but just press it up and hold it in there. And I guess you want to clean that area before you do that, because it might be full of dirt or whatever, but press it up in there and make sure that will not come loose. Like, apply lots of glue. It's hidden so it can be covered in glue and you won't notice. Just make sure that stays, because your sunroof panel will, I mean, if that comes loose, it will hit it, and then yeah, you're just going to slowly peel that seal out. So you want to make sure that it's glued and sturdy, and then that's pretty much it. Like, it's quite an easy job. It's just hard to get straight, and you want to get a high quality seal, and yeah, you want it to look good, of course. It is now time to install the sunroof panel. It's the exact same process, just in reverse, of course. Just be careful putting it back in to not hit your newly installed sunroof seal. When I took my sunroof panel out, of course, I had no seal, so it came out super easily. And well, there's now a 1/4 inch on either side that you have to be careful of when putting the panel back in. But time to put the hardware back in. Once your panel's in, force the 2 7mm, tighten that up, don't forget the cover plate. And then if you look a little further in on that same mounting piece, there's a flathead screw, and this is to adjust the height of the rear of the sunroof to line it up with the roof. Now, if it was perfectly lined up, then you don't have to touch it, but you basically just loosen that, and there's kind of a little nut with teeth on it, essentially, to hold it in place. And yeah, you just push it up to adjust the height of it. It's actually really simple. But what you want to do is put a little bit of Loctite on that screw. This is a part that turns, so it actually can come loose, and mine actually did. My screw was laying in the sunroof, kind of the gutter. So you do want to put a little bit of Loctite on that when you tighten it, and then also that bushing, just put a little bit of oil or grease on that and that should be fine. Now for the front, the 2 Phillips screws, this is kind of a little more serious adjustment, I suppose. There's like knurled nuts underneath, and that is kind of how you adjust the height. If you turn the inside ones out, so down, then you actually can push the sunroof panel down. And that's kind of the way to do it. You want it to be as straight as possible, those little levers, just so there's as little friction as possible when you're moving the sunroof. But otherwise, like, yeah, if it was adjusted perfectly or really good, then you don't have to touch it. And then tighten those up, slide your sunroof back, pull your headliner panel, and flip it up and enjoy. You can just do it by hand. If you kind of pay attention to where those little clips are and push directly with your finger on those ones, they'll clip in, and it's a nice satisfying noise. And then, well, it's time to enjoy. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned to watch more. I definitely have a few projects in the works.